Jeff Purinton has been a friend of ours for a very long time. He is now the athletics director at Arkansas State. Prior to that, was an associate athletics director at the University of Alabama and came to Alabama to kind of be the media liaison between us idiots in the media and the greatest coach of all time. And he's with us now. What's up, Purinton? How are you?
I'm good. It's 47 here today, so I feel like it's warming up. It's been a little bit chilly in Jonesboro, so I'm still a little bit in shock that Coach retired yesterday afternoon. But happy for him. I sent him a text and sent Terry a text. Coach actually responded briefly. And I told Terry I'd be willing to come down and play some golf if she gets tired of him being around the house. And she said, how about tomorrow?
I would say when we talked about bringing you on, I said, the great thing about Purinton is he was a guy that would give Nick Saban some shit back. Like, I'll never forget just early on, and it was the same laugh and grin and everything. You'd be like, yeah, he's having a shitty day. He's being a dick today. Like, you had a special relationship with him, and I think it takes that kind of guy to be able to work side by side with him.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't know Coach Saban when I was down at the Orange Bowl when I got some calls about potentially coming to Alabama. And I've known Kirk Herbstreit, as y'all know, for a lot of years, back before he's the big deal he is now. And one of the things I said, Kirk, well, what do you think? And he goes, you'll be fine. You'll be able to work with him. Your personality. He's tough, but he's the best there is. And I said, would you do it? And he said 100%. So yeah, that's just kind of my personality. I know you guys are kind of the same way. Life's too short. And I always made it a point just to go above and beyond, even if it was, Coach walking down the hall, I'd say, hey, good morning, Coach. How you doing? How was your weekend? And, make a little bit awkward conversation.
Yeah. I'm not that way. I was a timid little calf around him, and I appreciated you pushing me
in the beginning, but you evolved.
I did. Thanks to you. And Wolf's up to you, by the way. You're doing a hell of a job there.
Yeah, and I see the red wolf above you, man.
Yeah,
look at those menacing eyes.
Always overlooking Purinton. We got a wolf back there. But you're doing a hell of a job there, and it's not going unnoticed. Early on, in that process of him having to build the program at Alabama, we've talked to so many of the players that were part of that first major full recruiting class, like Barrett Jones last night. How much was the grind? We've always heard stories. And I don't know if you were at the facility until he left every day, but what was the hours like early on in the process?
Julie would be good to talk to y'all about this. I don't know how she tolerated it for that. The first year in particular. But, yeah, it was how it operated. I stayed. Whenever he was there, I stayed in the building because my office, those first years were over in football, as you know, and that was the case for everybody. You didn't leave until Coach left, and there was always a system of how you found out whoever was usually the recruiting guy, player personnel, would know when Coach left. So there would be some messaging going back and forth that it was safe to leave. But, yeah, we worked a lot of hours in that first year in 2007. Everybody thinks it's like it is now where you win 12, 13 games and go play for a championship. But 2007 was tough. We didn't have a great team. You're trying to figure out how Coach Saban wanted to operate. We weren't great. We had to really lobby to get in the Independence Bowl. I don't know if people remember that. We were 6-6. But you could certainly see the process and the buy-in, and he was getting the right people on board, and people were figuring out how to do it his way.
Jeff Purinton is with us. Jeff is the athletics director at Arkansas State University and was associate athletic director at Alabama prior to taking that job. And as I mentioned, when he first came to Alabama, we was talking about 2007, they brought him in as kind of it's a media relations, role, which, like I said, is kind of the liaison between idiots like us and the actual coaches in the school. You also served in that same role for Bobby Bowden. And I know you had a tremendous amount of respect, as we all do, for Coach Bowden. And on the surface, it would look like he and Nick Saban didn't have a lot of commonality, but you worked for both of them. They are both legendary coaches that did nothing but win a ton of football games and championships. What commonalities did you see between working for two legends like that?
Yeah, before I'll show you a picture. So I have my family behind my desk, and then I don't know if you can see it, but a picture of Coach Bowden and me and Coach Saban at one of the Joe Namath celebrity tournaments there at North River. So those two certainly played the biggest part in helping me get to where I am today. But yeah, I think certainly the personalities are a little bit different, but they certainly set the tone for not only the football program, but the entire athletic department with their work ethic and how they got people to buy in, and players, staff, people would do anything, run through the wall for them, and really had to kind of, Coach Alabama had success, but it was a rebuild and in a way. And then Coach Bowden, y'all know, Florida State was independent, the Erector Set Stadium, and just setting the culture. I think those two did it as good as anybody.
When people look at Nick Saban, I think a lot of fan bases are like, they don't see a human element. And when you first went to work there, we had Corey Reamer on earlier, and he's like, there wasn't a lot of fun moments early on. But when was the first time you saw a caring, giving, sympathetic side of Nick Saban?
Yeah, I think early on, even when Nick's kids started going, and then how he cared about the players and what's best for them and the staff. But there's also, y'all have been around him on the golf course. He's got a good sense of humor. He likes to give it, and he wants you to respond and talk some trash. So I think really early on playing golf with him, we had some good times. And then, the noon basketball games were certainly entertaining. I wish we would have videoed more of that. Well, maybe not, because I got my butt kicked most of the time. But Marty Smith reposted that feature he did, and they cut all my part out of it for some reason. But just that part, and he's so funny, and his sense of humor is dry, so you got to kind of figure it out. But I remember a couple times, because I used to have to guard him every day at noon, kind of during the off season, and you needed to show up at noon. I remember one day Kirby and some of those guys showed up at like 12:15 or 12:30, and it was just me and Coach Saban standing out there, and he gave a speech to everybody that this is the Noon Basketball Association, not the 12:30 Basketball Association, and you're here at noon, and this is not for you, this is for me, so I can stay healthy, so all of you have jobs. And everybody doesn't know if they can laugh or not.
Was he
another time? I remember I had I think I had to get some for my life insurance. I had a physical, and the doctor's appointment ran long, so I missed the basketball that day. So the next day he said, "Where the hell were you yesterday?" And I said, "I had an appointment, and it ran over, and I had to get my life insurance done." And he said, "Well, you need to do that on your own time." And I wasn't sure, was he kidding? But I didn't miss another game for that.
Was he good at basketball?
Yeah, he's pretty good. I think we won one time in maybe 8-9 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Man.
But he always had the best players.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I
I guarded him, and I can't jump and I can't run. I would compete, but it would be him. Kirby would always be on his team. Whatever, some NFL linebacker that was one of our GAs.
Would people block his shots?
Oh yeah, I would block it a couple times. Sometimes I would try. There's some video that actually Marty put in that clip. Rhett and Obasahan, him played on the Alabama basketball team. His coach was very predictable. People wanted to do some media and do something on the noon basketball. He would never let anybody do it. But Retton was videoing. And Coach had a good little kind of fadeaway jumper, and he hit it right over me on the baseline. And that's the only known footage I think that's out
there. That is absolutely amazing. From yesterday, he worked up until the final seconds before he went in and had that meeting, which is an amazing story. But I think part of this story, and I will say it here on the air, I think it should be Saban Field, and I think they should go the route of Nick and Terry Saban Field whenever they do that in Tuscaloosa. Her name should be part of this. And you know this, so I would love you to share with everybody. She was just not a coach's, she was so much more than a coach's wife to this situation. Just explain to our audience how important Terry Saban was to what was built in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, exactly. And I think when you talk about the legacy, certainly it's coach and all the players and staff that he impacted, but the community and all the relationships Terry built, whether it was Nick's kids or different things with the city. I mean, it's really remarkable. And I think that's one of the things that's really special about college athletics is the impact you can make. And and they together changed Tuscaloosa to the better. And I think people do understand, but I communicated with Terry probably as much as Coach at times when we had things going on, and Terry was an old English teacher, so I'd send her some things, and she'd make a few edits for us, and but she was involved in a lot of decisions. A lot of times, Coach would say, "Hey, have you talked to Terry about this?" And she always had great wisdom, and they were certainly a great partnership.
Yeah, and I don't like to give away, I was blessed to occasionally be behind the scenes. I don't like to give away too much, but that included, if I remember correctly, game day experience inside the stadium, right? She changed. I mean, Bryant-Denny Stadium was known as a sleepy game day experience until Terry Saban got involved. Am I a little bit correct about that?
So I was obviously involved with a lot of that. So we got a lot of input from Terry, and we had a consultant come in that Greg had a relationship with, and really, cut out a lot of PA reads that didn't bring a lot of excitement, and really tried to build toward kickoff, and added a lot of game day elements to probably what made it what it is today. And I would say it's right up there with the best in college football.
Jeff, before you go, Jeff Purinton with us, the athletics director at Arkansas State, worked for years in the Alabama athletics department and hand in hand with the Saban family. And I listen, nobody that lives in our part of the state, and especially in Tuscaloosa, wasn't somehow impacted by April 27th of 2011. And I know you personally were as well. You lived in Tuscaloosa then. But it always got described as kind of a turning point for Nick Saban, maybe. So you saw that. How did that impact him and maybe change some of the ways he approached things?
Yeah, I think he's always been a big picture person, but I think that certainly locked the Sabans in with Tuscaloosa at a deeper level. And I'll never forget it. He was in the office. I was in the office as well. And I remember calling my wife. I wasn't paying attention to the weather, and my dad was in town, and it was a little windy outside. And I said, "Hey, I'm coming home." I said, "I might try to play 9 holes with Dad." And she's like, "Have you looked at the weather? We have a severe tornado threat, and you need to get home." And I think Coach was still in the office, but that next day, obviously made sure the team was safe, and obviously there were some tragedies involved with people related to the program. But first thing was talking to the team, and this community has supported the football program, and now it's our time to support them. So went out that next morning, and he went and visited with people, brought water, went to some, once the shelters were established, went and had meals with people. And then, I think one of the coolest things is the championship houses with Habitat for Humanity. I mean, that's something. Championships are great, and winning big games is awesome. But, those homes, when Coach and Terry would be there and they give the keys to those families, man, that was really special.
Yeah, fantastic. Jeff, it's always good to catch up with you. We appreciate you giving us a little insight. And as Jim said, I will echo what a great job you're doing there at Arkansas State. And we're pulling for you, even though my daughter's at South Alabama now. Occasionally we go head to head, but that's all right.
That's right. We need to catch up. I'm sorry I missed you down there. We got a big doubleheader tonight, and hopefully Coach Hodson can keep it going. We've hit a bunch of 3-pointers, as you can imagine, and scored 107 and 90 the last 2 games. So got a lot of good momentum.
Yep, absolutely. 2-1 in conference. Hey, right. Good catching up with you, man. We really appreciate the time.
All right. Y'all take care.
All right, buddy. Take care. That is Jeff Purinton, the athletics director there at Arkansas State.